Military service is a profession that must be practiced in the very disciplined manner. If a person who is a soldier does not fulfill the obligations of being a soldier, his absence is even better than his presence. The establishment of the chain of command can be ensured by the sense of discipline that soldiers have. Russian soldiers have lost almost all the disciplinary behavior. 2 years after the beginning of the war, Russian troops have launched attacks against the Ukrainian soldiers who have been resisting in a disciplined manner, but have still not achieved most of their objectives. There is a lot can be said about this lack of discipline. We don't think that the reasons need to be investigated, because since the beginning of the war, there has been an anti-war attitude in the Russian army. And because of this attitude, the desire of Russian soldiers to get away from the front as soon as possible grew and grew. The Russian soldiers who cannot cope with this desire are trying to cope with their problems by using alcohol. In recent days, developments related to the drunken Russian soldiers have emerged. What are the developments related to the drunken Russian soldiers? Let's examine it together. As the Pioneer team, we continue to bring you developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support us with the super thanks button below the videos. Comment on our videos and please continue to express your opinions about our content in the comments with us. Let's start if you are ready. The Pioneer reports. Russian troops are no longer have the strength to withstand the conditions on the front line. Many sources in the region often make this claim. And the reason for this claim is obvious. Russian commanders and the Russian war leadership are not taking enough care of the Russian soldiers, or even not taking care of them at all. According to reports in recent days, the desk of many commanders in the Russian command have been fulfilled with the petition of the complaints. And the complaints have only one subject: returning home. Russian soldiers now want to go home. Many of them are furious, and the Russian war leadership and political power did not fulfill the promises they made to them on the way to the front line. Of course, there is also the part of this issue that concerns the Russian people. Allegedly, the Russian people want these soldiers to be rehabilitated because of the growing problems with the soldiers returning from home. We have used similar sentences many times about the war. It is a very difficult and troubled process. Of course, even people with the healthiest psychology can face the risk of losing their healthy psychology during the war. It was claimed that the Russian soldiers were already suffering from some psychological problems. Of course, this situation is not limited to psychological problems. According to reports, the drunkenness of the Russian soldiers also greatly affects the attitude of the Russian people towards the Russian soldiers returning from home. An incredible incident that took place in Russia recently confirms this. According to reports, there was a great chaos in Russia because of what happened with the Russian soldier returning from the front line. There was almost a major crisis due to the actions of the Russian soldier returning from the front line. According to reports from local sources, the incident took place recently in the outskirts of Moscow. A Russian soldier was, as usual, quite seriously intoxicated. This drunken soldier lost himself with the effect of alcohol, and the Russian soldier then entered a shop, threatened the shopkeeper, and demanded to take what was being sold in the shop for free. According to some sources, the drunken soldier even used the following statements during this incident: "We are Russian soldiers. You have to do what we want. Who do you think you are? You are our slaves. All your property is ours." Such statements of the drunken Russian soldiers angered both the shopkeeper and the Russian citizens in the neighborhood. Therefore, a great chaos caused. The drunken Russian soldier tried to damage the shop owner and the goods inside the shop, which further angered the locals. According to reports, the Russian soldier was beaten. Due to the late intervention of the Russian law enforcement officers, the drunken soldier could not get away for a long time. Many Russian citizens in the area who witnessed the incident did nothing to save the Russian soldier. Some of them were even happy about what was done to the Russian soldier. According to local sources, there was a lot of anger against the Russian soldier. One person involved in the beating even said the following about this incident: "We are fed up with these drunks. Every day another one comes and creates another incident. Don't think this is the only example. We deal with drunks every hour a day. Our calls to the administration are in vain." Do we want our soldiers to be in this situation? Of course not. What they force us to. After they come from the front line, they're turned into bandits. What do they do to them, to the front line? I really don't understand. No Russian citizen should be in such a pathetic and helpless situation. But the mistakes of the administration put the Russians in this situation. We drink alcohol too. Sometimes we drink too much. These are the things that every human being can do. But they turned into vandals. They cannot control what they do. They see themselves as the kings in the region that they're coming from. But when they see a commander, they act like slaves. This is getting annoying. Both the war leadership and the administration must clean up the Russian soldiers. Otherwise, Russian soldiers will be beaten by their own people today and the other days. As we can see, the Russian people have become very anxious and worried about the drunken Russian soldiers. We have mentioned this in our previous reports as well. The Russian people are in a great distress because of the actions of the Russian soldiers, especially the problems caused by the Russian soldiers who have come from the war and who psychologically is broken or growing day by day. A source in the Russian Federation told us the following about this issue. These incidents were expected by the war leadership. Russian soldiers are really badly treated on the front line. Most of their children of the Russian people are psychologically disturbed. Russians are people who drink a lot of alcohol under normal conditions, but the trauma of the war combined with this situation leads to more fatal cases. Our soldiers returning from the front line need therapy. I say this sincerely because they are potential killers, but I can't say that the war leadership cares much about this. Their goal is to give the soldiers returning from the front line a paradise in the country's territory. In this way, they are building a way to convince that soldier to return to the front once again. But the Russian people are also fed up with this situation. The issue of the drunken Russian soldiers is being a problem for the Russian Federation. In fact, with this attitude of the leadership, it is unlikely to be solved soon. So what do you think? Do you think that the drunken Russian soldiers' actions could be the beginning of the Russian people putting pressure on the government? Do you think that the Russian soldiers have psychological problems? Or do you think that the crisis of the Russian soldiers will be greater? How do you evaluate the beating of the drunk soldier by the Russian people? Let me know in the comments, because I read and I care about all of your comments.